Shalom, Yasha Allah. This is Brother Yahweh Nah with the Flame of Fire Israel. I want to start off first and foremost giving, of course, all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. There's all honor, glory, and praises to the Most High. In the name of His only begotten Son. We're finna touch on the Feast of Dedication. Happy Feast of Dedication to all the brothers and sisters, the Akim Al Quathium, the ones who's keeping it, regardless if you're keeping it on the December 19th, on the starting December 19th, the day we keeping it, or you're not. Shalom to you. But we're gonna go over this feast day, Hanukkah, the Feast of Dedication. That's all the word Hanukkah means. And the Hebrew is named Chanukah. Okay. So we're gonna touch on it. And there's a lot of history behind this. You got some Israelites that say, "Oh well, it's not in Leviticus. It's not found. Moses didn't give us this." So you gotta do thoroughly, and understand it through the Spirit and the power of Yahweh Shem Shah, and understand that there were feast days that were added after the feast days that the Lord gave us through Moses, and the commandments, in Leviticus the 26th chapter. Leviticus the 23rd chapter. So we want to just hop right on into it through the Spirit. Go ahead, hop into it. And we want to start off with Jeremiah the 4th chapter. Let's start at Jeremiah chapter 4 verse 1, right? And it says, "If thou wilt return, O Israel, saith the Lord, return unto me. If thou wilt put away thine abominations out of my sight, then shalt thou not remove." So we got to understand that we got to return to the Most High. And a part of returning to the Most High is returning to the ways of the Lord, seeking the old path. We got paths that was written. You got people in the world that keep Christmas, keep Thanksgiving, keep all these feast days of the world. When it comes to the ways of the Lord, we don't return as a people into the ways of the Lord and the things that He gave us and the righteous feast days that the Israelites kept. I want to get one more before we get into this breakdown. It's the Deuteronomy 32:7. And it says, "Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee." So you got to remember the days of old, right? We got to remember the days of old being the ways in which our righteous Israelites kept the feast days, the celebrations, the days in which the Lord has given us to celebrate. Right? Because, you got Jake that want to celebrate something. Eve, they want to celebrate something. They come in truth and they say, well, what do we keep? Right? Well, the days is in the Bible, man. These scriptures, it's written of in the scriptures, man. What we should do. So let's start out with Daniel, the 8th chapter, right? So we got to understand that Daniel 8 is biblical prophecy, right? You got a lot of people, like I was saying in the beginning of the video, that just because you don't see Chanukah or Hanukkah in the Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, they say, well, this isn't the feast day that we should be keeping. Well, we're going to show you through the precepts that Daniel prophesied of it. We're going to show you through the precepts about why this is a special day according to the scriptures, why this is a special day for the Israelites, and why we should celebrate it and keep it as a feast forever. So let's go to Daniel, the 8th chapter. All right. Daniel, the 8th chapter. Okay. So let's hop right into it. So we got to start at Daniel 8, and we'll go ahead and start That's 7, right? And we're gonna link all this up with First Maccabees, because the scripture is fulfilled in the Maccabees, and is talked about in Daniel the 8th chapter. It's prophesied in Daniel the 8th chapter, and is fulfilled in the Maccabees. So you're gonna see us going between Daniel the 8th chapter, Daniel the 11th chapter, First Maccabees the 1st chapter, Second Maccabees the 2nd chapter, First Maccabees the 4th chapter, um, various precepts to link up with the prophecy of this happening in Daniel and the fulfillment in the Maccabees. So, and further validating the book, the book of First Maccabees and Second Maccabees. So let's go to Daniel chapter 8 and verse 7, right? And it says, "And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stepped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand." So, what you got to understand is this is going into the prophecy of the Greek Empire, further going into the prophecy of uh, Alexander the Great, and how his rule would take place over the earth. Now let's prove this real quick with First Maccabees, the 1st chapter and 11th verse. We do precepts among precepts, line upon line, here a little, there a little, as it says in Isaiah, the 28th chapter. So let's get this real quick. First Maccabees 1, the 1st chapter, and we're gonna get verse 11. Not verse 11, so like at verse 1. I want to start at verse 1. We're gonna get to verse 11. So we're gonna switch in between. We're gonna be going in and out through the Spirit and the power of Yahweh Shem Ashar. Just bear with me the best you can. Israel, take notes, and try to stay along and stick with me, because it's a deep prophecy to go in and fully explain why we should keep this feast day, how it's special, and the importance of it. So let's go to First Maccabees 1 and 1, right? And it says, "And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip," this is talking about Alexander the Great, right? "The Macedonian," right? Macedonian is another word for just the Greeks, right? "Who came out of the land of Shittim, has smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds," okay, "and slew the kings of the earth, and went through the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, inasmuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up." Okay, so we're gonna stop here, but we'll read verse 4 too. "And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him." So you see here that in Daniel 8th chapter, when it says Daniel 8 and where he's at verse 7, it says, "And I saw him come closer to the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand." So this is showing the power of the Greek Empire over the whole earth, right? So let's get Daniel 8 and 8, right? This is showing you how they had that rulership that we just read about in First Maccabees 1 and 3. And it says, "And went through the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up." Right, so let's go to Daniel chapter 8 and verse 8. And it says, "Therefore the he goat waxed very great." Right? So we got to understand what this he goat is talking about. This he goat is talking about the Greeks, right? It's really talking about Alexander the Great, right? So we're going to get into that. Right? It says, "Therefore the he goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken." Now, this he goat is symbolic for the Greek Empire and symbolic for uh the Alexander the Great. Now the great horn, so like I skipped the verse. Um okay, Salakia. No, I didn't skip the verse. Verse 8, Salakia. Therefore, the he goat waxed very great. Now this he goat is Alexander the Great. Now he waxed very great. Salakia for the breakup. I got a lot of things, a lot of precepts I want to make sure I touch on. So he waxed very great. Now you see here in First Maccabees 1 and 2, it says, and made many wars with many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. Now, you see here that this he goat is Alexander the Great, right? He waxed very great. And when he was strong, when he was at the top of his rulership, right, in the Greek Empire, the great horn was broken, which he died, right? This is what the great horn was broken. It's talking about him dying. Now we're going to prove all this historically. We're going to prove it. Even the Christians back this up as has been fact. Now let's go back to First Maccabees 1:11, right? Verse 5. Well, let's First Maccabees 1 and 5, Salakia. Now, let's go to First Maccabees 1 and 5, and let's prove what Daniel is prophesying here in Daniel the 8th chapter. It says the great horn was broken. Now, let's show you what this broken is, right? Let's go to First Maccabees 1 and verse 5, and it says, and after these things, he fell sick. Now, this is talking about Alexander the Great, right? And right here, you see this is the great horn, right? Now, it says he fell sick and perceived that he should die, right? Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had him been brought upon him from his youth, he parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So he parted his kingdom up into four parts, right? So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. Now Alexander the Great, he died. Right. And the servants bear rule everyone in his place. Now, let's go back to Daniel 8 and 8. The great horn was broken, right? He died, Alexander the Great, and for it came up four notable ones towards the four winds of the heavens. Now, these four notable ones are talking about these four rulership, these four people in rulership, right? These four people that he left his kingdom over to. Now, these men, you got four men, right? You got Ptolemy, right? Which is also named as Seleucus. You got Antiochus, right? You got Cassander, and you got Lysakia. I'm not a Greek, so it's hard to say this. Lysimachus. We're gonna read it out as it's written. Because I'm having struggle saying this word. Lysimachus, Salakia. So let's continue, right? Salakia. Now, it says, therefore, the he goat was very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of the heaven. Now, the four notable ones are the four people. These four people, the four kingdoms that were split up. Now, let's prove that. Now, we're gonna go to a Christian uh, website. Even all the information they're getting off of is the history. So we're not really dealing with philosophy here. We're dealing with the historical, and even Christians would tell you this is what this prophecy is talking about. Now let's show to where these things were set up. Now you had the four notable ones, Daniel 8 and 8. It says the four general ones who by 301 BC, the four generals ruled Alexander Empire. Right, he split them up. Macedonia and most of Greece were under the rule of Cassander, right? Asia Minor and parts of Thrace were under the rule of Lysimachus, all right? Syria, Israel, and Mesopotamia were ruled by Seleucus, right? And Egypt and parts of southern Syria were under Ptolemy. Now, you see here, this is a historical fact. Now we can look up in history and see that this is a historical fact. And Alexander the Great, and anyone saying the Bible isn't the truth is you're a fool, right? These people that go up on the highways and byways, or we are on the highways and byways, and say the Bible's a joke, it's fake, it's a bunch of fairy tales. They know not what they speak of, man. They're in ignorance. Because what you're going to find out is that the Bible's a book of prophecy and things that have came to pass and is 100% proof. Now, let's go back to Daniel, the 8th chapter. Now that we got that covered, we can even go to verse 21 because I want to touch at verse 21, verse 20 real quick. So like it. Verse 21. I want to touch at verse 21 real quick before we continue. Right? So the rough goat, this goat that we're reading about, is the king of Grecia. The king of Grecia is Alexander the Great. And the great horn is that, Salaki, and the great horn that is between the eyes is the first king. Now this great horn that fell down is the first king. Right? And now who is the first king? Let's go back to First Maccabees. 1:1, and it says, and it happened after Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. Who's that first king? Alexander, the son of Philip, other words known as Alexander the Great, Alexander the Freak, the Greek freak, right? Who died from having sex with animals and having all type of orgies and different types of wickedness, and he died from what you would call AIDS or I forgot what it's called. Basically a disease from having sex with different things and like I'm saying, it's like it, sex with animals and sex with homosexuality and things of that nature. We can get the actual let me look up that real quick and get that. It's like it. Let's get this real quick. I think it was syphilis, but I want to make sure. Pretty sure it was syphilis. Okay, I can't really find nothing what I really want, but it's syphilis. Let's get it real quick. I want to spend too much time on. There we go. Historians have debated the issue for centuries, attributing to poison, malaria, typhoid fever, or other maladies. What is agreed upon is that the Macedonian king died in early June 323 BC while suffering a high fever that had lasted 10 days. His empire was carved up by his generals and soon disintegrated. Now you see his empire being carved up by his generals, but the fever that he had was caused by syphilis. I'm trying to find it, but we're not here for that. To break the point is that he died and he was the first king. Let's go back to Daniel, back to this prophecy, right? All this keys in the importance, and for the people that say that, well, uh, the Feast of Dedication is not found anywhere in Torah. It's not found anywhere in the Old Testament. We're gonna show you the prophecy of it, in the Old Testament. Now let's go to Daniel chapter 8. I want to get, before we go into Daniel 8, before we go deeper, well, actually, let me go ahead and get it. Let's get Daniel 8 and verse 10, right? Where we left off at verse 9, right? And out of one of them came forth a little horn, right? Which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. Now, this little horn, right, is talking about Antiochus, right? Or his name was also Ephesus. I believe Ephesus the fourth or something like that. I got the historical account. Daniel 8 and 9. Yeah, Epiphanes, Salakia, I'm tripping. Right, Daniel 8 9. A little horn came out of the four horns. Most agree that the little horn can only refer to Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes, a Seleucid ruler over Syria and Israel. That's between 175 and 163 BC. And for a short time over Egypt. So this is the little horn that we're speaking of. Right, all backed up by history. So let's go to Daniel 8 and 10. And it says, and it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, right? And it cast down of the host and of the stars to the ground and stepped upon them. Now the host of heaven, right? And these stars is talking about Israel, right? They were cast down under this rulership. Now let's get verse 11. And it says, yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of sanctuary was cast down. So our temple was taken away, right? Our sacrifice was taken away. Our place, our sanctuary was cast down. Now, you got to understand that, like I said, all this is history. It's historical fact that you can look up. Antiochus the Epiphany the fourth taking over the land of Israel and taking away our land. Well, taking away our temple. It's a lot. Verse 12, and it says, and an host, right, was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. Now this host, right, is talking about the wicked Israelites that made a covenant with the heathen. Now, we're going to prove this with 2 Maccabees, the 3rd chapter. Let's get this real quick. 2 Maccabees, the 3rd chapter. All right, so this is 2 Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 4. Is this what I want? Bear with me, Israel. All right, yeah, so here. 2 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 1. We'll start at the top. And it says, now when the holy city was inhabited with all peace, and all the laws were kept very well because of the godliness of Ananias the high priest and his hatred of wickedness, it came to pass that even the kings themselves did honor the place and magnify the temple with their best gifts. And so much that Seleucus, king of Asia, right, of his own revenues, bear all the costs belonging to the service of the sacrifices. But one, Simon of the tribe of Benjamin, who was made governor of the temple, fell out with the high priest about disorder in the city, right? So you got these Israelites falling out with the high priest, right? And when he could not overcome Ananias, he gave him to Apollonius, the son of Slovakia, uh, uh, Thraces, who was the governor of Colossyria, Slovakia, and Finis, and told Phineas, I don't know, Slovakia for these Greek names, and told them that the treasury in Jerusalem was full of infinite sums of money, so that the multitude of their riches which did not pertain to the account of the sacrifices was innumerable, and that it was possible to bring all into the king's hand. Now, when Apollonius came to the king and had showed him of the money whereof he was told, the king chose out Heliodorus, his treasurer, and sent him with a commandment to bring him the foresaid money. So forthwith, Heliodorus took the journey under a color of visiting uh, the cities of Colorea and Finis, and indeed to fulfill the king's purpose. Um, I'm trying to get to the point. Okay, so the point is in the next chapter, I believe, Salakia. But the point is in the verse 4, you had Israelites that fell out with the high priest, and there was disorder in the city. Um, Now, there's another one I want to get in First Maccabees. Um, right. This is the key point I wanted to get. This is the verse I was looking for in First Maccabees. I don't know how I got that confused. First Maccabees 1:11, Salakia Israel. In those days, when they're out in Israel, well, actually, let's get this the rest of this, because we were already on this in First Maccabees. So let's get the rest of this because he's gonna get into the point. First Maccabees chapter 1, and I believe we left off in verse 9. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So when these wicked men was in rulership, when Alexander's, the Grecians were in rulership, these Edomites were in rulership, evils multiplied in the earth. And there came out of them a wicked roof. So like a wicked root. Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, the same person we read about in the historical record, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow." Right? Verse 12. So this device pleased them well. Yeah, Israelites that was going off. And when that host was that we're reading about in Daniel the 8th chapter in the 12th verse. Now let's go back to that because we're going to continue with it's going to go hand in hand. Verse Daniel 8:12. And then host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and they cast down the truth to the ground and practice and prosper. Right, so the host was given against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. They went against the commandments, right, and cast down the truth to the ground, right, and this wickedness was prospered, right. All this wickedness and these wicked sacrifices and our place in rulership in the temple was taken down. Like we go back to First Maccabees 1:13. Then certain of the people were so for therein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. Now our people did after the ordinance of the heathen, and they cast down the truth to the ground, and they practiced and prospered. Right? Verse 13. And it said, Let's go back to Daniel 8 and 13. And it says, Then I heard one saint speaking, one and another said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? Right, so our sanctuary was destroyed, because if you read the history, you had these heathens that set up idols in the land and took over. We're going to go into it deeper in the scriptures. That took over our place and set up these idols in the temple of Zeus and other things. Um, and you see Daniel 8:14, it says, And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Now the sanctuary being cleansed is prophesying of the feast of dedication. Because when you go into the dedication, all it means is to be holy, sanctified, consecrated. So the sanctuary was back holy, consecrated, sanctified. Now this is the prophecy. Now we're gonna go back and we're gonna touch back on this, because it's all going back with each other. Now let's go back to First Maccabees, the first chapter, and the 13th verse. And it says, Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. Right? Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, a so-called gymnasium, like you see today. When you go back to the root of gymnasiums, it really was just naked men that used to sit around and do all type of homosexuality and all type of wickedness, man. According to the customs of the heathen, right? And made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief, right? So they forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen. So Khan, so let's get into the prophecy of First Maccabees, not First Maccabees, but Daniel 8 and 14 being fulfilled. We're gonna get to Daniel 11 too. It's just so many things we got to touch on. I'm gonna touch on Daniel 11 first, and then we're gonna go back to First Maccabees, the fourth chapter, and touch on the fulfillment of that prophecy. Also, we're gonna go to First Maccabees, touch on some more in the first chapter. But for now, let's go to Daniel 11 and 30. Right. So Daniel 11 and 30, right? And it says, For the ships of Shittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do, and he shall return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. Right? Verse 31. And Salakia. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength. So our sanctuary was polluted, right? Um, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. They placed the abomination, Zeus, in the temple. They placed these idols set up in the temple, man. Right? So the temple was made unholy, wicked. Right? Took away our daily sacrifice. Verse 11, chapter 11 and verse 32. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. So our people was corrupted by flatteries, just like you go back in like we was just reading at First Maccabees. Um, let's get that account in Daniel 11. Um, Daniel 11. Let's get that account. It's in First Maccabees, I believe. We ain't even got to that yet, but we're gonna go ahead and touch on it. 1 and 54 to get this point. And it says, Now the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 140th and fifth year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and built idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. So they built up idols and they set up these abominations in the in the altar, in the temple. So So you see it here in Daniel 11:31. It says, "And the arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary's strength, and they shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate." Right? And such as do wickedly. So you're seeing these prophecies being fulfilled in Maccabees, and then you seeing it being prophesied in Daniel 11th chapter. "And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries, but the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits." So you see here the people was corrupted by flatteries. Um that goes let's get that real quick. And Ecclesiastes 7:7 said, "A gift destroyed the heart." And we were just bringing out how the Israelites, they was giving they were giving things, and they was wanting to serve the heathen. Let's get that point again. And verse Maccabees 1:11. "In those days went there out in Israel wicked man who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow." Now let's jump down to verse 13. "The certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen." So they went to the king, right, to do after the ordinance of the heathen, right? "And made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief." They were sold to do mischief. Same thing you're seeing here in Daniel 11, where it says they were, Daniel 11:32, it says, "And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries." They were corrupted by gifts. They were corrupted by the things the king would give them, by living good in the society, being a coon just like you got today. The same coons you got on the earth today was the same coons back then. And let's get that Ecclesiastes 7:7. I don't want to forget on that. I'm gonna open up another link for that. Bear with me. It's Ecclesiastes. Tripping. Hold up. My bad. Ecclesiastes 7:7. It says, "Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart." So these people were giving gifts. They was giving they were okay, but they were okay in the society. Just like today, they were looked good upon. They were okay. They didn't have to worry about getting put to death, right? They had a gift of living good in the Greek society, man. They were sacrificing it to the idols, right? They weren't put to death like the men, like we reading in verse, we finna get in Daniel 11. And it says, Daniel 11:32, it says, "But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits." Right? So the people that do know the Most High shall be strong. These people that were strong and didn't know the Most High, they got put to death for these things. They got put to death for serving the Lord. Talking about the Judah and Maccabees, man. The Maccabees. And we're going to touch on that too. So now let's go to let's keep reading this Daniel 11, right? And it says, "And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame and by captivity." That flame is symbolic of affliction. That's what flame is, affliction. "By captivity and by spoil many days. Now, when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries." Okay? So you had fake Israelites during there, keep cleaving unto them, just thinking they was gonna get things out of hanging with the Maccabees, right? They weren't truly servants of the Lord. They didn't truly, like we read in verse 32, knowing the Most High. And verse 35 it says, "And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them," right? So you're gonna have people of understanding that fall to try them. and to purge and to make them white. Now we read that right about that in Daniel 12:10. Being made white is being made clean, holy. We read about when we make the marriage with the Most High, with Yahweh Shai, how our garments gonna be made white, right? White is after affliction, you can be made white and pure, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. So so you see here that this is talking about the Judean Maccabees. We're gonna get into this too. We're gonna get into the story of the Maccabees. We're gonna touch on it, and because it's a strong story and goes into why we should celebrate this feast day. Now I want to touch on a little bit while we in First Maccabees. Before we move on, I want to touch on a little bit more in First Maccabees, the first chapter. I want to get 42. Now let's get 42, right? Touching on, well, we'll get 41. It says, moreover, King of Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. Just like America today, man, right? They wanted everyone, King of Antiochus, they would put in the same thing. We all should be the same. That new world order. Everyone should be one people, right? And everyone should leave his laws. Just like today, we've left the laws, statutes, commandments of the Lord, right? And do what the heathen have said. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. What's the commandment today? The commandments of the earth, the laws of this earth, the laws of America, the laws of the society, right? And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea. So I can leave zoom in a little bit. It says, yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion. Just like today, you got people that consented to Christianity. You know what Christianity is? It's nothing but this religion. Everyone's the same. Everyone's equal. We should all listen to these damn heathens, man. Right? And it says, and sacrifice unto idols and profane the Sabbath. You got a people profaning the Sabbath today, right? And they sacrifice unto these idols. They were sold to do evil. They were sold to do mischief, like we was reading earlier. And it says, for the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land. Just like today, right? You got people that set up, it's got people keeping these laws of this earth, but don't keep the laws of the Most High, keeping the laws of America, but don't keep the laws of the Lord, right? Verse 45. And it says, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings and the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath and festival days, that they profane the Sabbath, the feast days, right? And pollute the sanctuary and the holy people. So to understand that our sanctuary polluted. Now all this Hanukkah and Chanukah in the Hebrew is about our sanctuary being made clean and the mercy that the Most High is going to show us in these verses that we're finna bring out here about the deliverance. Now, verse 47, and it says, verse 47, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts. So these heathens, they got and set up altars in Jerusalem, took over our sanctuary, our temple, and sacrificed idols, right? And had these different false gods like Zeus and what you see today and Baal probably, right? And all these different heathen, these different worship. I mean, Salaki, different idols that they worship, Salaki, Israel. In verse 47, it says, well, verse 48, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manners of uncleanness and profanation. Now, this is what you see in the New Testament. Why did the northern? Why was the Israelite talk? Why was the these Israelites speaking to these people that were called Gentiles? Because our people were acting like Gentiles. A lot of our people were sold to do evil. A lot of our people didn't never turn from their wickedness. Even in Judah, right? So what do you think? To imagine the northern kingdom, right? And they should leave their children uncircumcised. Now, this uncircumcised ain't just talking about an actual uncircumcision. But it's actually talking about an actual uncircumcision too. Don't get me wrong, but it's talking about uncircumcised as in not keeping the law, statutes, commandments, and acting like a heathen also, right? That the souls and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances, just like today, right? They wanted you to forget the law and change all the ordinances, right? And whosoever would not do according to the commandment, right, of the king, he said he should die. So the people that didn't listen to the king, they were supposed to be put to death, right? So you got to understand what our people was going through, and these people that had to stand up. That's why we was reading earlier in Daniel 11, and it says, what was we at? Daniel 11:35, and some of them of understanding shall fall to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end. Hold on, that's not what I wanted. No, verse 33 is what I wanted. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame and by captivity and by spoil many days. So you see in here in First Maccabees that whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die, right? And this is just like what you're gonna have in Babylon the Great eventually, man. These are the things that's gonna be set up all over again, right? Because what do you know? These are all Edomites. This is Babylon the Great. This is Rome back on the earth again, man. So let's get verse 51. And it says, in the self same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land. So you had Israelites that were sellouts, and you had Israelites that was just scared, man, and didn't want and couldn't stand up for the Lord, was scared to die, right? And drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee to succor, right? So you had these righteous Israelites that were in caves, man, secret places that was keeping the feast, that was still serving the Lord. And we're going to touch on that too. Now, verse 54, we already got that, but we'll read it again. Now, the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and built idol altars throughout the cities of Judea on every side. Now, now I want to get this too. It's more on this. All of this just need to be brought out, right? So we're gonna bring it out through the spirit. Let's get this. Let's touch it. All right. And it says, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets, right? And when they had rent in pieces the book of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire. So they were looking around looking for the book of the law. Anybody with the law, such commandments, they took it and they burned it up, man. Right? This is what's going to happen in Babylon the Great in the future, man. Right? And wheresoever was found with any the book of the testament, or if any consented to the law, the king's consented to the law, the king's commandment was that they should be put to death. If anyone was keeping the law, such commandments, they was put to death. So you got to remember and look back on the people that was in this situation. Now you're going to see the Most High deliver them out of it. And what the Hanukkah is the celebration of the dedication, the celebration of the cleaning of the altar of the temple after the Most High delivered us out of this hell that we was going through. Verse 58. Thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month to as many as were found in the cities. Now, the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the altar, which was upon the altar of God, at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. So these women that were circumcising their children, they put them to death, right? And they hanged the infants about their necks. So they took the babies and hanged them on their necks, man. This is how you know these are the same heathens, man, that we read about doing the same things to the northern kingdom, doing the same thing to Gad, doing the same thing to Judah, right? In America today, right? And it says, and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. How bent many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died. And there was very great wrath upon Israel. So you gotta understand, it was very great wrath upon us, man. And we was going through hell. We was going through straight hell. So Khan, I want to get a couple more precepts. Now let's get Second Maccabees 2:1. All right, we're finna get into the meaning behind this, the salvation of it, the deliverance that the Lord gave us. We're finna get into all of that. What this meaning behind this feast day. Once you see the background of it already been prophesied in Daniel, us going through this hell, now you're gonna see what this celebration is about through the spirit and the power of Yahweh Shem Ashar. So let's get Second Maccabees chapter 2, verse 1. Okay. And it says, it is also found in the records that Jeremy the prophet commanded them, Second Maccabees chapter 2, verse 1, they were carried away to take of the fire as it had been signified, right? And how that the prophet, having given them the law, charged them not to forget the commandments of the Lord, and that they should not err in their minds when they see images of silver and gold with their ornaments. Hold on, so like, what's the point I wanted? I want to get the point. I want to get this point, key point, real quick. Let me find it real quick. Israel, Salakia. Might be in the fourth chapter. Might be in First Maccabees, the fourth chapter. Let me find it real quick. We're gonna get that too, Salakia. That's not what I want. I'm trying to find that count of bear with me, Israel. I'm trying to find the father of Judah Maccabees. Salakia. Let me find it, Israel. Bear with me. If not, we just have to get it later. I could have swore Second Maccabees 2:1. Okay, here we go. Right. Second Maccabees 2:23. Right. All these things I say, being declared by Jason of Cyrene in 5 books, we will say to abridge in 1 volume. For considering the infinite number and the difficulty which they find that desire to look upon the narrations of the story variety of the matter. And it says, we being careful, Slovakia. Basically, I'm not going to read the whole story. You can read this for yourself. But Jason of Cyrene was the father of Judah Maccabees, the Maccabean brothers. He's the father of the Maccabees. So let's get on that real quick. Now let's go to get this. The point is that he had sons. I want to get that too. I want to get the point where he went over with him. Salakia Israel. I'm trying to find it. Might just have to do a word search. Judas. Let me find it. I'm gonna have to Google it real quick. Salakia. He was the Salaki. He was the son of Matthias. Not what I told you. Cyrene or whatever I said. Salaki. I'm trying to get the precept. Okay. It's in the second Maccabees, the second chapter. I know I wasn't tripping. Bear with me, Israel. I'm gonna get it now. All right, let's get it. I'm just gonna chop into it. It's taking up too much time. All right, second Maccabees 2:19. It says, now it's concerning Judas Maccabeus and his brethren, and the purification of the great temple and the dedication of the altar. Hold up, that's not what I want. I'm just gonna go to First Maccabees, the fourth chapter, and just go into the story. Because I can't find the precept that I want. I didn't really get too many precepts. I should have pre-done that, but Salaki for that, Israel. Salaki for the time I don't waste it. Let's get on First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 1. It says, then took Gorgias 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen, and removed out of the camp by night. I think it's third chapter. That's what it is. Okay, here we go. All right, Salakia Israel, we found it. All praise to Yahweh Shemel Shai. Right, so if we get the last verse, and all right, God. All right, so Jude, third chapter, Salakia. All right, then his son, called Maccabeus, rode up his stead. So Judas, called Maccabeus, Judah Maccabees, rose up in his stead. And all his brethren helped him, right? He rose up in the stead of, I think we just got that, Matthias, right? I can't find it. I was trying to find the scripture that said that, but you just have to look it up. So I can't find it right now. It says, and all his brethren helped him, and so did all they held held with his father, and they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. So Matthias started the battle. He started the keeping of commandments in Israel, right? And it says, um, so he gave his people with great honor and put on a breastplate as a giant and girt his warlike harness about him, and he made battles, protecting the host with his sword. He in his acts he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp roaring for his prey. For he pursued the wicked and sought them out and burned up those that vexed his people. Um, see here that Judah Maccabees were nothing to play with. I believe um, he was a top warrior. Um, get a couple more accounts out of the story. So they won a battle, right? This is verse 19. For the victory of battle standeth not in the multitude of an host, but the strength cometh from heaven. Then come against us, and much pride and iniquity destroy us, and our wives and children, and to spoil us. But we fight for our lives and our laws. So they fought for their lives and the laws, statutes, commandments of the Lord. So kind. It's verse 24. Let's get into the battle. And they pursued them from going down of Bethron unto the plain, where they were slain about 800 men of them. And the residue fled into the land of the Philistines. They began the fear of Judas and his brethren, and exceeding great dread to fall upon all the nations round about them. And so much as his fame came unto the king, and all nations talked of the battles of Judas. Now when King Antiochus heard these things, he was full of indignation. Wherefore he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army, right? And he opened also his treasure and gave them his soldiers for a year, commanding them to be ready whensoever he would need them. Nevertheless, when he saw that the money of the treasures fell, and that the tributes of the country were small because of the dissension and plague which he had brought upon the land, and taking away the laws which have been of old time, he feared that he should not be able to bear the charges any longer, nor to have such gifts to give so liberally as he did before, for he abounded above above the kings that were before him. Now let's get to the point. I get verse 51 to get the point too. For the sanctuary is trodden down and profane, and thy priests are in heaviness and brought low. That's a good key point to show you that our sanctuary was profane. Now let's go to First Maccabees, the fourth chapter. Now we go to fourth chapter. Now that we know who he is, a little context. Like I said, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, brothers and sisters. They want to read the whole thing. Lord willing, you do that to get more edification on it. But I want to just get the key points on the feast of dedication. I want to read the whole book of Maccabees. Okay, so First Maccabees 4:1, right? It says, then took Gorgias 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen, and removed out of the camp by night, to the end he might rush in upon the camp of the Jews and smite them suddenly, and the men of the fortress were his guides. So these men, these Greeks came upon them, thinking they was going to kill the Jews. They wanted to kill Ju- uh, uh, Judas Maccabees, right? Now when Judas heard thereof, he himself removed, and the valiant men with him, that he might smite the king's army, which was at Emmaus. Emmaus, I can't say that word, it's a lot again. While as yet the forces were dispersed from the camp. In the mean season came Gorgias by night into the camp of Judas, and when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains, for he said, the fellows flee from us. But as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their minds. And they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong, and well harnessed and compassed round about with horsemen. and these were experts of war. Then said Judas to the men that were with him, Fear ye not their multitude, neither ye be afraid of their assault. Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea when Pharaoh pursued them with an army. All praise to Yahweh Shemi outside. Judas Maccabees was in the spirit, man. Right? They seen the number, and these men was experts. And Judas was like, don't even fear these men, and know you got the Most High with you. Now therefore let us cry unto heaven, if peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and destroy this host before our face this day. That so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel. And the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw their coming over against them. Right? I'm gonna let's jump down. And it says, verse 15, how about all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword, for they pursued them with Gazra, and unto the plains of Idumea, and Azotus, and Iamnia, so that there were slain of them upon 3,000 men. This done, Judas returned again with his host from pursuing them, and said to the people, Be not greedy of the spoils, inasmuch as there is a battle before us. Verse 18, and Gorgias and his hosts are here by us in the mountain, but stand ye now against your enemies and overcome them after this, that you may boldly take the spoils. So basically they won the war, they won the battle. We get verse 22. They fled everyone into the land of strangers. In verse 24, it says, after this, they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving being the true thanksgiving, giving to each other, loving each other, caring each other. What's this song of thanksgiving? Let's get it. It's in the precepts. Let's get that first. These 4 once in Psalms. It says, and praise the Lord in heaven, because it is good, because his mercy endureth forever. Now, what they was quoting was what were they song they were singing was in Psalms 136. Let's get that. Psalms 136. Right, and it says, "Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever." And what was quoted in the verse, "Oh, give thanks to the God of heaven, for his mercy endureth forever." They were reading Psalms. They were singing Psalms 136 because the Most High had mercy upon them, man. And it says, after this they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving and praised the Lord in heaven, because it is good, because his mercy endureth to heaven forever. Thus Israel had great deliverance that day. So we're celebrating this deliverance, and we're celebrating our temple being clean, and we're gonna get into that too. Now that we got that, let's get First Maccabees 4:35, and it says, now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judas' soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went to Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was, he proposed to come again into Judea. Right? And it says, then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Right? So they went up and cleansed and dedicated the sanctuary. This is what this feast of dedication is for. Right? Verse 38, and it says, and when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profane, well, we get verse 37 too. And upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Zion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profaned, and the gates burnt up, and the shrubs growing in the courts as in a forest, and or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentations and cast ashes upon their heads. So they was disappointed, man, because their sanctuary was destroyed, their holy place. Verse 43, who cleansed the sanctuary, um, verse 42. So he chose priests of blameless conversation. Priests had to be blameless, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary and bear out all the defiled stones into an unclean place. So so that's the point. Let's add some more on this. I want to get 52. All right, so So now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called Caslu, and the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning, right, early in the morning. Verse 53, and offer sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it, even in that it was dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had given them good success. Right? And it speaks about that in Joshua, the first chapter. If you worship the Lord, if you keep his commandments and observe to do all that's written in the law, then you're gonna have good success. Verse 56. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days. Is what we're doing here, right? And offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates of the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them. Thus there were very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Caslu, which with mirth and gladness. So you see here that we should keep this. That Judas and his brethren, they ordained that we should keep this feast, man, because it was remembering that how the Lord delivered us and how we could keep our temple. Right now we don't have a temple, man. So we looking upon and rehearsing the righteous act. The Lord redo and cleanse our temple now and bring us back to Israel, man. Verse 60. And that time also they builded up the Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. And they set a garrison to keep it and fortified the Shura to preserve it, that the people may have a defense against Idumea. Idumea being Esau, the Greeks, right? That's who they was defending against, man. So we got to keep this feast day because it's a righteous thing, man. And it's remembering all the things that our ancestors went through, man. Right? And it's and it's in the law. It's in Daniel. It was prophesied in Daniel that it would be cleansed. And what's that verse that links with Daniel? Um, right, verse 43. So they cleansed the sanctuary. And Daniel, the 11th chapter. Let's go back here. Daniel 11th chapter. It says, at the time, it's like, not Daniel 11, Daniel 8 is what I want. It's like Daniel 8. And it says, and he said, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So Daniel prophesied for the sanctuary to be cleansed. Show you, man, this is the day that was prophesied to happen. And we were celebrated with joyfulness, man. All right? So that's a beautiful thing, man. You see the hell our people was going through. So Khan, get a couple more precepts on this. Let's get Daniel 8 and 13. Oh, we already got that. Sanctuary was cleansed. We already touched on that. So let's prove a couple more things before we get out of here. Let me get Zechariah 4 and 2. A couple more things. So I get it. It says, and he said unto me, all right, let's touch on the candlestick real quick, because it's another thing you got to understand is that the candlestick is 7 candlesticks. It's not what you see here, what the heathen have, what you might buy from a store. Because this is what you'll see. You get a candlestick to celebrate this feast. Don't get one with 9 of them. Get the one with 7. It should look something. It should look like this. It should be 7 of them. It should look like these right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Shouldn't be 9 of them. But that's what the Jewish man does, man. They turn everything upside down. And let's prove that real quick. Then we're going to prove Yahweh Shah kept it. Zechariah 4 and 2, and it says, and he said unto me, what seest thou? And he said, I have a look, and behold, a candlestick all of gold, with a bowl upon the top of it, right? The bowl, being those, the things you see, the bowls, those things, let's get this. These are the bowls right here, right? And it says, with his 7 lamps thereon, and 7 pipes on the 7 lamps, which are upon the top thereof. Also, you get Revelations 1, because it's a thing you do on Chanukah with in the Hebrew. You get the candlesticks out, man. You get the menorahs out. Revelations 1 and 20. The mystery of the 7 stars, which he saw in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks, right? So these 7 golden candlesticks is symbolic for the 7 stars, the 7 angels, the 7 churches, right? These are symbolic for perfection, symbolic for Israel, symbolic for the Most High, symbolic for Yahweh Shah. These are why these things are an important thing to have. If you can get it during the feast, that's a good thing to do. So let's prove Yahweh Shah kept it, right? Because you got a lot of people be, well, it ain't Leviticus the 23rd, so John 10 and 22, and it says, and it was at Jerusalem the feast of dedication, and it was winter. So you see here in Jerusalem, the people keeping the feast of dedication. You see Yahweh Shah say, oh, that's going off. No, he kept it. And it says, verse 23, and he says, and Yahushua walked into the temple in Solomon's porch. So he kept the feast of dedication. Yahushua was saying to people, are you going off by keeping the feast? No, they kept it. And what does it say? If we abide in Christ, let's get 1 John 2 and 6 real quick. A little edification. It says, he that abideth in him ought himself to walk even as he walked. So we should walk as Christ walked. Christ kept it, so we should keep it. All right? No problem for you to keep this righteous feast day, right? Let me get one more, couple more precepts real quick. I'm about to be done. It's about to be an hour and a half video long, so get one or two more precepts. First, there was a couple out left to get out, man. But we got the majority of it. We got the point. So, we got to return unto the Lord, man. Seek the Most High. Return back to these righteous feast days. Salakia for the pauses I had in the video. I didn't really have lesson all the way written down like I wanted to. I winged it with a couple of things, a couple of precepts I just brung out. So, Salakia for that, Israel. But this is the meaning behind this feast day. And we should be, and, you shouldn't be trying to find your way out of keeping these feast days anyways. Let's get that Joshua 1 and 8. And we were just reading how the people had good success. Says this book of the law shall not depart of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. So we should be do according to all that's written in this book. Then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success, man. Right? So, study this book, be in it, and do according to all that's written in. Rehearse the righteous acts, man. Because it's a beautiful day. Happy Chanukah, right? Hopefully, brothers and sisters have a great 8 days of feasting. If you already celebrated yours, we can't get on to you for that either. We celebrate ours according to the moon on the, December the 19th. But if you brothers and sisters keeping it on another day, get this real quick. Colossians 2 and 16. Let no man judge you in meat or in drink, or respect of an holy day, or of a new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ. So we can't get on you for keeping a feast day on a different day. So we rehearsing the righteous act. We're doing things to the best of our ability in this captivity. We're remembering our temple, waiting on that day where the Most High comes and send His Son, Yahweh Shai, where salvation comes from the Most High, to get our temple back, for us to rule back in Israel, man. For our temple to be cleansed once again, man. And when the time of the Gentiles in our land is fulfilled, man. But with that, hopefully, brothers and sisters was edified. I want to give, of course, all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Call Halayim, Abanawa Yahweh, by Hashem, Amashiach, Wamalak Yahweh Shai, Barakatham. Shalom to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. Shalom to the brothers is pushing this truth and sincerity. Shalom to the elders. Shalom to all the brothers is celebrating and feasting, and in the spirit of truth and sincerity, and loving this book, loving the Most High, and loving His word, loving His law, statutes, commandments, and loving Israel. With that, I'm gonna bid you a hearty shalom and Akwam Yasharala.